see what ends up happening. Overall, though, it's going to be awesome to see how these drafts kind of unfold. I always love when we get a new hero, a new patch, to see the impact it can have, because it's far more than does Phoenix get first pick. It does impact all 12, 14 of the heroes that we see in every single draft.
Well, this kind of is a little bit of a different way of saying, look, if you're going to ban Phoenix, we'll pick up Maiev. If you're going to ban Maiev, we'll pick up Phoenix. By banning the Medivh, obviously you play around that, insta-lock Phoenix.
Taking no time here, but neither is the other side. Simplicity respond quickly with the Garrosh Stukov. Garrosh a little bit better on Volskaya than we see on Cursed Hollow. Stukov, a lot better on the, I don't want to say better, but this is a map that he can kind of cater to pretty well. Pretty cool play style around some of the conveyor belts with his lurking arms. Good synergy there with the Garrosh as well.
It is interesting. Obviously the Garrosh pick has been a huge part of what Gale Force's recent success has been. King Caffeine acknowledged that in his interview. He's going to pick up Garrosh himself. We'll see how they play around that. The Garrosh-Stukov combo, obviously really strong. So for Gale Force, you have heroes to consider. I don't even know if they need to pick up their warrior here, but obviously warriors that come to mind are ETC right out of the gate, but he doesn't necessarily do well into Stukov or the Tyrael. And I think right now, given all things considered, they might sit on it. We might even go down the route of a Muradin. Johanna, if I'm not mistaken, on this battleground when I checked this week, was something like 1-10. 1 win, 10 losses on Volskaya. As great as she is at living, she doesn't do a whole lot else for you.
That is actually wild how polar of a result that is, especially because it's been one of the, kind of more prominent maps to see her selected in. Jaina still going to be picked up for Gale Force. This is something we got from them last time they were on Volskaya Foundry. Was willing to pick it within the 2-3. Paired it with a Malfurion, which, post-nerf so far, haven't even seen a Malfurion show up here in North America. He made it quite, through some of the drafts within Europe. A lot lower than we saw 2 patches ago.
Well, we've got all the damage on the front line. Again, it's what warrior, what support might you be most afraid of here if you are on the side of Simplicity? Obviously, you've already got the Garrosh, so if you want to take away one hero that might do well against Garrosh, and you look at the backside of a Phoenix Jaina, that is not an aggressive style composition, so it's generally going to be a warrior that's more about controlling points and looking to make a little bit of setup, but doesn't necessarily dive. So if you want to play around, do they have the mobility to get out of a toss? Do they have the ability to stand on there? Those are things to consider on warriors.
Just going to be banned out here, taken off the table. Which then, again, only kind of furthers the limitation towards Gale Force Esports on that front line. Only Tyrael and probably that ETC still remain. What do we want to see as a ban, though? The back line, against the Phoenix, against the Jaina, a lot of slows. Actually, in my opinion, extremely difficult to move up onto both of these because the mobility and kind of damage capabilities they have of sitting back, but also the explosiveness they have going forward. I love the duo and love the synergy. I feel like with the Blaze on top of it, it's going to be pretty hard to move into this comp.
I will say that if I'm wanting to target somebody on Simplicity, at this point I'm thinking, all right, if I take Dahaka away from Prismat, you look at Phoenix, you look at Jaina, they can really get onto a frontliner. Malthael has kind of been the backup option for Prismat so far. Sonya we've seen rise a little bit. Both of those heroes are extremely susceptible to stuns, slows, and being blown up. And I think that, we'll likely see a Dahaka here, although we might get the Leoric, but get a Genji ban on the side of Gale Force.
If we don't see either of those, they may have, Sonya, maybe, to be able to put into that role, but it doesn't feel like it would fill quite what they would need. It would just be more of, hey, look, we can consistently thread out that Phoenix and the Jaina. Granted, I mean, Sonya doesn't love playing against a Sonya. It's not fun being slowed. She has other talents that she can take to be able to rid of it, but it still makes it difficult to kind of second guess what Poison Spear is a good and a bad one.
The Jaina obviously has a lot of frontline control, so we'll see if you get the slows.
Like Tracer, Junkrat, those are the 2 heroes that I'm thinking of sitting in the back of my mind.
Hanzo there.
They commit with the Junkrat and also the Hanzo. I don't know why. Apparently, if I don't see Hanzo in the first rotation, I just assume that he doesn't exist. Like, he's not real. He no longer is an option to be drafted.
I really am curious because Hanzo has only been played once by Zuna so far. It was in a loss. But Hanzo was Hosty's most successful hero in the beginning part of the year.
Yeah.
It's kind of what brought Hosty up. But Junkrat's there. I don't have any Junkrat games for Zuna, so we're seeing a mixed hero pool this time. We saw the Phoenix last game, a backliner. We're seeing either Junkrat or Hanzo here, the backliner. Again, I think playstyle-wise and making sure that he plays safe, I like it.
There's that Malfurion for Gale Force Esports. Who is the front line, though? Is it our ETC? Is it our Tyrael? I feel like it's got to be the ETC.
I'm actually on the line of Tyrael at this point just because I'm terrified of being tossed and a concussion mine.
I prefer the Tyrael, but after that last game, you know, and moving into the Judgment and not being comfortable moving into the solo Sanctification based off of just having one squishy dive in, I said it puts a lot of pressure on them, so much so that they backed out of Sanctification. That, to me, says we aren't so comfortable on the hero, even though we're willing to pick it in certain situations. They end up committing with that ETC, whether or not that be the thought process or not, but for me, it said a lot for Gale Force.
The ETC pick, he's been played 16 times by Fury thus far here in 2018. So we'll see. We need that side soak, that side laner. Will it be the Dahaka, Leo? Maybe we'll get more of the Sonya Malthal action, Simplicity.
I don't want it to be the Dahaka, but I feel like it's going to be the Dahaka.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of feel that way,
like
too.
It just been the go-to for so long. The Malthal doesn't fit with this composition, I feel like, too well. And then the Sonya, again, she's not terrible, but doesn't kind of pack the punch you want. Or a variant. Also, not what I expected. You do make up for a little bit. Okay, so let me explain. Number one, this variant pick, every other variant pick we've seen, I've been immediately like, why are we picking variant? We need to highlight that there is two heroes that have some of the best wave clear to ever touch this game ever, and that is Junkrat and Hanzo on the other side of the battlefield, which make it far more acceptable to kind of put that variant as this I have no wave clear, I have no option other than team fighting into it, while those two are babying off in that side lane. That in mind, again, I'm still going to be skeptical because it's pretty linear on how you have to approach the team fight. Is here's the, charge in, here's my taunt, here's my one shot. But it is more forgiving in this type of circumstance because they have picked both of those wave clears within their backline.
Taunt has always been the go-to. But I'm wondering, because you have Garrosh, he has a taunt, Varian has a taunt. Is there, Junkrat doesn't have extreme burst damage. He has a lot of good displacement. Hanzo can, depending on the build. I almost wonder if there might not be a place for Colossus Smash in this one to get that one-shot blow-up. I mean, you can play off taunt. Obviously, Garrosh has an AoE taunt on a 50-second cooldown. Varian's taunt, much less than that, 18, 20 seconds, wherever it's at now. So it gives Varian a much shorter cooldown, but it's a single-target taunt, and you can still get that. But playing around, cycling taunts, you can get 3 taunts out in the span of 30 seconds or 50 seconds. Could be pretty interesting.
The one thing with the taunt that I often see, like why I feel like we see, because I feel like this is the second or third time we've gotten it on Volsky specifically, is just that first shrine phase, right? It's the kill potential around that taunt, around that first level 4 fight and trying to get that lethality. And because the cooldown is so short, it's one of the few hard crowd controls that you reliably can get that in the earlier stages. But we'll see. We'll see how it kind of unfolds here. No matter what, it's always a bit wild when we get ourselves a Varian.
Varian, not a whole lot of success thus far. We'll see if he can get it here. But Gale Force, again, rough first game. We're going to see if they can turn it around on a lot of familiar heroes with the ETC, the Jaina Malfurion, the Blaze up there, but adding Phoenix to the mix this go-round.
And already, Phoenix mixing it up here. Level 1, not going to go with the standard Q that we see, with that increased scaling, auto attack damage with the other opportunity to get the last kind of flip around. It's going to be mobile offense. After moving unmounted, Phoenix Dex basic attack will do 30% more damage to heroes. Extremely good if you're, one of those, kind of sidesteppers, or what is the word I'm looking for? Not kiting. What am I looking for? The macro. Stutter stepping is the wording that everybody has applied to it in modern day here. If you're one of those stutter steppers, really good at increasing your auto attack damage and being effective in that area.
When you look at sustained damage, it's definitely there. You've got that big burst on the side of Jaina, so they got a good mix here. I think this is one of those compositions. Again, we haven't seen a lot of it. I watched some scrims earlier this week, teams trying it out. We saw different builds, things like that, where they're like, all right, can we do this? Can we make this work? Can we make that work? And I think that we're still in that experimentation phase. And if it works, obviously it builds your confidence on it. If it doesn't work, maybe you try something else. We'll see a lot of it here in our first few weeks.
I think a lot of this is going to be just the build of Phoenix is going to be purely, what we see in this game, build-wise from Big Impact, is going to be purely based on the idea of Jaina on the team. And then providing the slow, and then having all the synergies with the talents that we see out of the Phoenix with, you know, on top of a slow target. He doesn't have to commit too much into those areas. He can just instead go capitalizing on it. Jaina goes, everybody's slowed, and he goes, I have way too much damage now.
The other thing is there are talents that Phoenix can go into to do bonus damage to slowed targets, specifically as early as level 7. In terms of other slow targets, level 4 obviously got something going on there, but on just slowed targets in general, outside of his own slow, then yeah, level 7.
Support camp going to be started for Gale Force. Priz still not able to achieve 4 for that taunt, so not going to move up. Zuna does end up getting the concussion mine out, but Fury makes it back there for a biotic emitter.
Just curious to see where all of these builds go. Again, we see Redemption picked up for Hanzo, getting a little bit of sustain himself, and I really think that we'll be going into that armor reduction at level 7 with those sharpened arrowheads for Hanzo to really get that single target burst. If you have the taunts available, which we do see taunt picked up by Varian, you have the sustain auto attack, you got the single target burst with the explosive arrow at level 4, and then potentially the armor reduction at level 7. So definitely going in to make sure and get some primary focus.
We see the shift there into emergency protocol at level 4. So I guess it's not as different. It's just considering the level 1 we've already seen adjusted for Big Impact to having the opportunity to move faster without those shields. I did expect, honestly, with the mobility of the talent that we saw at Azuna in the last game, with the auto attack onto the slow target, having the double slows, increasing your mobility. It's by 40%, I think, for 4 seconds rather than 30 for 5. See how it works out here for Gale Force. It's all about the first protector fight here, as King Caffeine and Mikey Dahl kind of pay their respects here, not wanting to get too aggressive.
They pressed F before they went in. So Gale Force, again, both teams with sustain in the form of Phoenix on the side of Gale Force, Junkrat, and Hanzo on the side of Simplicity. We see Blaze, he's just looking at the minimap alone. They're trying to push out that top lane, get that race to 7, which is why you see Jaina playing very far back. So they'll try and push that forward. You mentioned, you know, one of the big benefits to running a Varian style like this is that you have the wave clear, like a Junkrat and a Hanzo, and you can see Junkrat definitely fitting that role there.
Yeah, normally that's oh, nobody can make this rotation right now, and that's what I'm saying. It's very different that we have 2 insanely good wave clears. It makes it far more forgiving for that kind of decision-making within the composition that Simplicity has ended up drafting.
Level 7 picked up here for Gale Force. Again, trying to play around that. We'll see how that does play out. Again, that level 7 pickup, that combat advantage, doing 50% more damage to slowed targets with that plasma cutter. Of course, you have the slows there. ETC has the slow at 13 on his face melt if he goes that route. You've got Jaina with the inherent slow there on her abilities. So definitely trying to play around that, see if they can get some of that burst damage as this game goes on. You think about the potential for a mosh pit, which is going to be hard into all the CC on the side of Simplicity, but you get a power slide slow and you get a combo from a Jaina Phoenix. Those heroes do not last long.
Oh, there's a lot of damage. Big Impact. Almost in a tough spot there after that groundbreaker. Great job from Fury getting the knockback, making sure no flip over into the backline of Simplicity. Turrets are going to be thrown down. The battle will remain nearly even. Gale Force keep theirs up for a smidge longer.
Yeah, we're going to overtime here. We see this channeling up here for Gale Force, but as long as we're on the point, King Caffeine, though, that's that long-distance poke there. Biggie getting mad value out of that, but now he's starting to take damage, forced to warp out, Dread.
Yeah, had to warp out there, falling low after the shielding. Going to be not able to pick that up, but King Caffeine out too far. Nice power slide there, but it's going to come at a cost with the punishment of that crowd control and then the concussion mine. Hanzo hitting the max range Storm Bowl, and this is now a 1-for-1 trade between these teams. Lurking Arm goes down from K1 Pro. Scattering Arrow is going to come out there from Hosty, and they end up getting their second pick off. Simplicity's holding on.
Hosty didn't make his name on Hanzo for nothing. Sick plays there. Also forgot about Oil on the side there, but there's a good route. Biggie, he's trying to trade out, ends up getting the Moonfire heals there, but now you can see the chase, the grenades, it's going in. There is enough splash damage. That is going to be Michael Udall falling on Jaina.
Simplicity ends up getting the turn here in the overtime over that first protector. Now 10 seconds until Mike Udall is going to be back here. And I don't know if Gale Force Esports has that kind of rally back to be able to stall this out and force once the Jaina comes back to life. They may end up having to forfeit. Junkrat did show himself on top, which could incentivize that kind of rotation, but it is so very close. They're going to move for it. Fury.
They're coming back in. They picked up another turret. Fury eating so much damage. There's that armor reduction coming in from Hosty on Hanzo that is just doing so much. They're holding on the point for now. I don't know how much longer they can hold. Level 10 also almost here for Simplicity.
Yeah, and that's going to be enough to scare them away. Once they see Zuna joining in here for the full 5-on-5, they want nothing to do with it here. Protector picked up by Simplicity, and now they're going to go back, you know, kind of rid of the waves here, see what we see Simplicity do with the Protector. We see the standard focus over the front wall, and then probably going to get that cycle up to top. I'd like to see Simplicity be very aware of making sure they get not only the well, but at least a little bit of damage onto that fort, as they have still a very, very healthy, you know, kind of Triglop Protector here.
Level 10 also almost here for Gale Force. I don't know if we'll see Planet Cracker this go round, but we saw the ETC. Yeah, it's going to be that salvo, getting that target acquired there, hitting many people. We'll change up here from game to game.
Well's now the focus. They end up getting that Simplicity with the a 4-1 split. I was going to say a 3-2, but we got two people up in that Protector here. Junkrat's just kind of doing his best in the wave clear. They're actually, I believe, even trying to track him down, diving even past the turret to get the kill. But Zuna ends up going down eventually.
I think Udall maybe dove a little bit too far. Didn't have minions to save himself there. There's going to be a massive shove, sending Fury flying back, who has not locked in his heroic. It'll be that situation where we'll likely see stage dive. You look at Hanzo, interrupt on his heroic. You see the lurking arm from Stukov. You see the concussion mine on the side of Junkrat. It's very hard to get Mosh Pit, but he will not pick that until, if he has an opportunity to get that big Mosh, he'll lock it in and get that big playmaking ability.
Not going to do anything yet here. Just some power slide onto Prismat. A lot was achieved there from that first Protector for Simplicity. They've got to be, you know, pretty happy with the fact that they almost claimed the entirety of that top fort before that Protector even spawns, and they're winning the race to 13. It's not a colossal win here on that race, but it in fact is a small victory.
We got Moshpit actually locked in. This is going to be an interesting fight. They don't want to clump up here, but again, a concussion mine goes down, things like that. You can actually see the flanking position right above this between Blaze and Jaina. See if they can make it happen.
Zuna's in a bad spot. Look at that collapse. Nice massive shove from K1 Pro. King Caffeine is going to flip them off. There goes the scanner. It's going to get interrupted with that taunt from Prismat, but look at that Riptire damage onto Mike Udall. He enters the bunker, but he is not going to make it out here, J-How.
I think that he had a path to exit, ended up coming back into this.
He comes back.
The concussion mine is there. They're trying to get the takedown. Michael Udall, however, going to get caught in the bush there. Two members on the side of Gale Force about to make it three, as there's going to be a taunt directly on to Malfury, and that's going to be Akafe sent back home with the rest of Gale Force.
Simplicity is just throwing around, literally and metaphorically, Gale Force Esports in this series right now. That Garrosh kind of taunt with the Riptire concussion mines. Gale Force has no answer as it currently stands here.
They definitely had a plan of attack in terms of split and divide, but that massive shove by K1 Pro basically saved any type of assault of Gale Force, and it's just like, nah, now we're taking this fight.
And that was such a good collapse coming out from them. It only got scouted because the trap from Zuna and Junkrat came out, that he threw it down. He's like, I guess we have to go. But rather than immediately setting up the jet propulsion, because when you see that trap set down, the actual wind-up time of the trap is quite some time. So we could have seen that jet propulsion come out and maybe force them, but instead it was that kind of point and click out, step out a little bit of ways, and then enough time for the massive shove, counter initiation, as you said, from Simplicity here. Gale Force, they aren't even talent tiers. It's just that when we look at both of these games so far, they are yet to get more. They haven't gotten kills within major team fights, right? They are not winning team fights. They are just getting those kind of scrappy picks in those ganks here and there throughout the game. When we look at every major trade between these two teams, Simplicity has claimed almost all of those in game one and a majority here already in game two.
Fun thing that we just saw there was that healing reduction. Varian bringing it back in, has that Mortal Strike at level 13. So when he does get that Heroic Strike in, we see that healing reduction. And, you know, you're getting the armor reduction from Hanzo. It's going to be tough to keep heroes alive. Level 13 picked up, but 16 on the horizon. There's going to be a taunt. They're trying to get the blow up. There's another taunt.
Double silence as well behind it. Fury is able to keep himself up, though, with the healing of Akafe. Simplicity, though, that was just only two relatively short cooldowns there. If you consider, you know, the cooldown of the taunt mixed with Warlord's Challenge is one of the shorter heroics that we typically have. They burnt really nothing to almost kill an entire ETC. Now they're going to go in again, landing that taunt. But there's the three-man mouse pit onto the backlines. Akafe lines up for the Twilight Dream. The interrupt, though, is going to be there with that Junkrat, but it doesn't matter with already the Wombo out from Jaina wiping out two. Prismat trying to do his best to keep himself up, but it is not going to matter.
Big time. That mosh pit is exactly what they needed. That experience gap now going to be made up in terms of the kills. There's going to be the fort going down. We'll see the channel. Simplicity will be back in time. They should have 16. But that one mosh pit sometimes is all you need to turn this around. We saw the salvo. Let's take another look at it.
It's such a pretty clump there. You see Aka, he's trying to get a Twilight here, but there's actually going to get interrupted by that Riptire that did so much damage. With the Ruse set down, and as you see, Mikey Doll getting a lot of DPS there for Gale Force Esports. And at this point, I mean, let's be real, the fight's done. Once that mosh pit hits and the damage comes out, you go, all right, this isn't our fight anymore, boys. Time to wrap it up.
The interesting thing about that is when Stukov gets in there, Dragon Arrow was used in that previous engagement, so there was no other stun. And then you think about this a little bit. You hear the Riptire animation, and it came from the bottom. It ended up, I think, getting the interrupt on that, but you have a moment of time. And sometimes you just need, you don't need the full 4 seconds on a mosh pit. You just get like, look, I need 1 or 2 seconds, and this is over. We're locking down multiple people. Ended up getting the kills there.
Simplicity, though, did have enough time to spawn, get the 16s, and at least make it back to contest point B here up in the top lane. Gale Force isn't making the rotation yet. They claim another turret camp for themselves down below, which is going to allow, at least rotationally, a lot of control here for Simplicity. Gale Force has to be very careful about how they approach this because they can't make this typical, you know, down-up rotation. Otherwise, they're going to be met with a lot of this. And that's about all she wrote. But Prismat can't make it out. That's deflect 2. They've got a third and a second Riptire to get the deterrent. K1 Pro not able to land that massive shove. Cap comes in with the Groundbreaker. And that looks like it's enough actually to pull it out there. Look at that Ice Block Force. 2-man Jet Propulsion, Twilight Dream. They bait them and outsmart them. Gale Force turned this around.
Locked and loaded, Biggie trying to get the damage in, but we see the return damage from Hanzo. That was such a big-time play. I thought Michael Udall was for sure done, but great Ice Block there. But the big play by B-Kid as he came in on that Blaze Dreadnought to turn that around was clutch.
That was so big from Gale Force Esports there because, I mean, you heard me saying it, right? As they make that rotation, it's like, well, this is very difficult in this amount of crowd control into a variant, into the Garrosh and the silence from the Stukov that we've seen. They've had a hard time moving anywhere, and the great job from Simplicity cutting off in that choke and then making sure they end up getting that kill, but then Prismat getting caught out and the turnaround from the bait there on the side of Mike Udall, that was such a huge play. I mean, that would have lost them all that work, all the success of that last team fight if they did not end up getting that bait.
See if Gale Force can move forward. This Protector all the way down to 60% already. They do get through the keep wall. Not sure if they'll manage to get the keep, but that is definitely something that they would love to have. See if Fury also finds an opportunity, maybe get a mosh pit in here, but the return damage of Hanzo, remember, these count as heroic targets, so that armor reduction definitely works against this Protector.
They really want this Protector. They're going to, you know, even use the Into the Fray. Lurking Arm's going to be dropped there. Bunker already dropped for Gale Force. Now looking to turn it. Cap out a little bit too far. Going to get rooted. Forces the Indomitable. B-Kid hit the Jet Propulsion during that window, so wasn't able to get the stun. And Gale Force ends up backing out.
Still have quite a game here as no keeps have gone down. Experience relatively even, race towards 20 before the next control point, which will be at the bottom. It's something you mentioned earlier. Having a Stukov around those points is going to be really fun.
Just gets so much more wild, you know? He's on a conveyor belt, just hand in the ground, and then there's the circle of death somewhere else within that point. Simplicity is making the rotation down to their turret camp. Doesn't look like it's going to be invaded anytime soon. Simplicity may want to try and force a fight pre-20 before that next objective fight down below. And if so, it's going to be difficult to, you know, what point in time can they maybe force it? Maybe it would be around the support camp that you see the rotation kind of already happening for Gale Force up to. Yes, it looks like they're going to try and force this invade. They do not want to give it up for free. Varian is way too slow in this rotation, though.
It's going to be the emitter going over to Fury, and he's like, look, I don't know where anybody's at, but I'm going to power slide to safety. I don't care. Like, there's no risk involved here as he gets out. But there's a big-time taunt onto B-Kid, and that's going to be Blaze falling before the rest of his team can even get near.
That was one of the coolest mishaps I feel like I have ever seen. The jet propulsion, and then you got Varian like, I'll come with you, tracking him down. Then all of a sudden, Garrosh is met there with a double taunt at the end of the road for B-Kid. Great punishment there from Simplicity, able to, you know, identify that, hey, we want this fight over this objective. They didn't get it, right? But they didn't immediately back out. They were still looking for those windows when it goes, hey, look at this guy. He's out of position, taking a little bit too much with this rotation, and now they bought themselves about that 30 seconds. It's not enough to set it at a dead even game, but this is night and day from what we have seen from Simplicity over the first couple of weeks of Part 2, and I feel like the entirety of 2018.
Junkrat showing at the top, so it's 4v4 here, but Gale Force, they're only soaking this one lane, which means they're missing out on crucial experience. Still should be at level 20 by the time Simplicity gets there, so we'll have a 20v20 in this bot lane in the very near future. The one thing that Gale Force did do earlier in the game was take down the well on the side of Simplicity, so definitely making sure that they do have that control. Gale Force does still have the well on their side, so if it does become a long, drawn-out fight, they can always regroup, tap, and come back.
Gale Force has to be very careful with these rotations. Because they control no vision over this mid and so much crowd control exists by Simplicity, you see them always kind of sharking in this fog, going, if you make one misstep, we will end up getting the execution, much like they just did onto B-Kid before. B-Kid has shown himself up on top, which allows Simplicity to maybe move up for a moment. Zoning route there onto Priz, not going to cost too much out of Simplicity or Gale Force here.
That well was fully targeted. The other, oh, there's a big-time route. Michael Udall trying to get the lockdown, but King Caffeine used that Indomitable Fury, looking to try and make a play. He hasn't picked his 20. See if he gets a Bolt Mosh. Instead, he's going to get shoved away.
He's going to get shoved away, but now Prismat's in a bad spot. Uses the Riptire. Bolt comes out with that Twilight Dream, and that's going to be the first kill onto Prismaticism. No variant available for Simplicity, and that has got to be, I mean, a lot of percentage, maybe the entirety here over that bottom objective, is there's going to be 50 seconds with nothing to really do here for Simplicity.
Yeah, well, I think one thing that they might try and do, obviously they're picking up this turret camp to make sure it's not stolen, but they still have their camp up at the top right. There's still 40 seconds for Varian to come back. That will force out a response in time if this drags on. So at least they have that going for them. I mean, it's not necessarily like game ending, keep ending at this point, but it's definitely something that will warrant a response out of Gale Force. Instead, Gale Force is like, look, they're probably up there. What if we just take this down, kind of speed things up here in the bot lane?
More denial here for Simplicity. Again, this is just taking what they can get on the map, knowing that they have no variant, but they do see Gale Force aggressing here towards that bottom keep, and now are eventually getting an answer. Notice how they're flanking rather than backing. It shows that they don't want to actually take the fight. They want to force the 4v4 while they're still split. They know B-Kid is on point, and they're going to try and all in on B-Kid, knowing that he is separated, but they can't do it within time. Not enough time there.
They got the dismount.
Not going to get the slow anymore there from that Welly. It will make it across the conveyor, but nobody's going to get the follow-up yet.
Get back. Either way, we've got an attempt. First keep of the game. Can we get it here? They were thwarted on their attempt at the top lane with the second protector. They did obtain the third, did Gale Force. So much easier route here, much stronger protector at this point. So keep all but given. Fury still has not locked in. He is in that protector. See if he might try and hop out. Maybe get a big-time play. See if it happens.
Keep's going to be the focus for now. Falling below 50%. Triglaw Protector also shares the same fate as it is now rounding that 50 percentile. Even dropping down to 40, that's all she's going to write when it comes to the major structures here that Gale Force can get with this Triglaw Protector. They're going to make the rotation out towards mid. Zunin doing his best there with those grenades. That was a very confident rotation. Confidence, the word I use, I think cocky was where I meant to land on that one. And
they definitely want that fort and that well there, Dread, but they ate so much damage going through there. There's that camp that's warranting the response, and
Blaze
they saw that backing. They saw that back.
They can just force the fight now. They get the all-in. There goes the taunt on the Malfurion. No Twilight Dream available as there's the second follow-up. Simplicity punishing on that back there. Gale Force now trying to fight back. They need a Mosh Pit miracle if they're going to have the opportunity. Jet Propulsion lands. There goes the bunker. Fury still looking for it, still not selected that 20, has the opportunity for Bolt if needed. Now Caps the focus. Do they got the damage? They need this Jet Propulsion.
Michael Udall has to be so careful. He is so low and Hosty with that increased range, trying to get the poke back. But the fact that Blaze, Hearth, right in front of the enemy team, Simplicity was more than willing to take that fight. They did trade out a Junkrat for that Malfurion, but the fact that there is no support on the side of Gale Force, Simplicity might have an opportunity to be a little bit more aggressive, but I think both teams, 10 kills to 9, I think they're going to play it pretty neutral right now.
What a interesting situation.
I mean, the camp warranted a response. I just didn't know if it needed it that quickly in that manner.
Yeah, and I mean, it was like a response as in like, yeah, somebody should probably get this before it hits the core. Not like a, somebody should get this, we need to go. Catapults being dealt with on bottom. Not going to achieve anything yet here, but they are something that will always kind of have to stick in the back of the minds of Simplicity. And again, you know, with this variant double wave clear with the Hanzo and the Junkrat, it is going to be a problem, but it's not going to be as big of one as we normally see. Junkrat did get the clear on bottom and showed himself pretty recently, but able to use his 13 to make his way up in time to contest this.
Fury still has not locked in his level 20. He's looking to see when is the right time. What opportunity do I make happen? You have the Tor Bus, which you can power slide while you're mosh pitting. You have the Blink that you can go Blink mosh. You have the Death mosh. If you know you're going to die, just commit to the fight, commit to the death. Get that, see if you can go. One thing in particular on the side of Simplicity with Varian, we've seen him get very deep in these. He went Demoralizing Shout, which is on a 25-second cooldown. It's a 40% damage reduction of the enemies around you. And given that Jaina is fully in the burst, if you take away 40% of her damage, you might be keeping somebody alive versus not.
I know this is probably picky, but I feel like Gale Force could move 3 pixels to the right here with this invade, a little bit farther forward, just to make sure if they move through that choke, they all are in range for that damage. They were trying to abuse fog to see if anybody would move through that choke, but they had a little bit more leeway to get that follow-up. Point A is going to be spawning here in 30 seconds. Nobody fell for the bait over Gale Force Esports. Catapult still mounting over the bottom lane.
Try to take that well down. We're unable to do so. It will regen a shield over time. It's one of those things you think back a long time ago that didn't exist. Either way, we've got the control point unlocking here in 7 seconds. This could be the fight to win it all. 22-22, 23 minutes in. Simplicity going in quick.
They get into the fray. Taunt combo there. Now flip back. Now King Caffeine got to get rooted. A lot of damage there. Indomitable goes in. There goes the attempt there after the power slide, interrupted and thwarted by the Riptire from Zuna. Nobody going to get a kill there. A lot of fireworks between the two teams.
Yeah, that camp, again, pushing top lane. Catapults in the bot lane, so pushing in both sides. Junkrat, you can see on the minimap, has already gone back to defend against the Catapult. Somebody will inevitably have to defend against that in the top left. That's going to be Jaina. Before Gale Force re-engages here on the control point, they've got to recontrol the lanes. And we'll see after this. This could be another fight here to decide this game number 2.
Full 5-on-5, aggressive positioning up above. You see the cutoff attempt from Mike Udall and Phoenix there. Big impact, trying to zone out Prismaticism and friends. Not going to be able to zone him off yet. 70% and counting. Turret going to be thrown down now for Simplicity.
See B-Kid trying to take it down with that oil, lighting it on fire. There's going to be one taunt. There's going to be a second taunt. The return damage, but the lurking arm's going to be there, and that is going to be Fury going down the salvo, trying to confirm a kill, unable to do so. Prismat, he's not going to make it out alive. We've got a 4v4. Michael Udall and team still on the assault. Water Elemental has fallen, so has the turret, but the members of Simplicity, very, very low, forced to drop back and tap.
They have to back and tap, but also passive was used there for K1 Pro, and everybody's going to sit at 100% HP. 99% and counting, though. Look at this, overtime. There's no way that Gale Force, can they hold this off? There goes the combo, bunker already used. Dragon's Arrow number 2, here comes a Riptire. That's going to be a lot of damage when they get met out of this. Explosion comes through. Nobody going to get killed yet.
Catapult starting to do damage to core. There's going to be a second wave. Another one's going to spawn here. It's going to delay it. So they are on a timer. Is Simplicity. You can see Gale Force, they want to hold this. They want to get on there, but Michael Udall might have stepped in too far. Ice Block has been used. He's trying to hold there, but he is going to fall. King Caffeine, he goes in for the taunt. He gets it on to B-Kid, but that is going to be the rest of Gale Force backing out of here. And a protector picked up by Simplicity.
And now 54 seconds where Mike Udall is not going to be found. Catapults on bottom are a problem, but they aren't that big of a problem. Not surely as big of this huge catapult named as that protector that's marching its way towards the base of Gale Force Esports. Varian ends up being the man backing to deal with the catapults. That now provides a 4 versus 4 in the top half of the map for Gale Force Esports. If they maybe want to dive on past and try and get that kill onto Zuna. If so, look for Big Impact and B-Kid to try and get that all-in dive onto the back line. But for now, it's all about this key.
This camp that was pushing top lane in that wave ended up getting so much damage. Akaface, remember, Ice Block was used. He's taking damage. The Protector down to about 70%. There's a power slide over. King Caffeine is there, but there's 2 members in this Protector, and it is starting to take down the shields rapidly here on the core. Simplicity looking to take a win.
They are trying to do their best. Their Cap ends up getting the flip over with that 16, stunning 2 of the members. 40% on the core and the Protector. Simplicity looks like they have done it here, Jay Howe, in game number 1 in dominant fashion. Game 2 a bit closer, but they